These are the 6 reasons people leave the ones they love. How can this even happen? Things seem to be going so well. You had so many plans for the future. You were close to their family, and then one day, love wasn't enough. Why? I remember pacing the floor and pulling my hair out trying to figure out what went wrong. I was 24, I'd already been divorced, and now I was experiencing a breakup all over again. This time I felt like my ex really loved me and I couldn't figure out how someone could leave someone that they loved. My mind raced with thoughts of, was it all fake? Did I just read the situation wrong? Was it just one-sided the whole time? I couldn't eat at all. I literally ate 1 bite of an apple a day for about 2 weeks and lost 20 pounds. And I only weighed 150 at the beginning, so it was a big deal. I couldn't sleep either, and when I did, my dreams were filled with visions of her. Some were memories and some were just imagined scenarios where she would come back. I was completely lost and hopeless. I started making videos and learning all I could about relationships. Over the last couple of years, I've done over 1,000 hour-long coaching calls with people from all around the world going through breakups, and I've discovered that these are the 6 reasons why people can leave those that they still love. By the end of this video, it'll be clear to you what happened in your relationship, what you could do to fix it, and you'll finally have that closure that you've been looking for. Reason number 1, there's going to be a pattern here, so see if you can find it. Did your ex leave after going on a trip? Or maybe right at about the 2-month mark of dating? Did they leave right after you met their family, or maybe right after they met your family? Maybe they left right after you two started talking about getting engaged or moving in together. At any of these points, they started to become distant, seem like a different person, and then almost out of nowhere, your relationship was over. The common thread here is an avoidant attachment style. This is one of 4 major ways people relate to those they love. Those with this attachment style were hurt in the past, and now consciously or subconsciously, they consider love dangerous. This hurt could have come from their parents or maybe a past relationship where they got cheated on or betrayed somehow. Now, because of this perceived danger, getting close to you felt stressful. And the closer someone with this attachment style becomes to their partner, the more potent and painful that stress can become. Things like meeting your family or talking about moving in together can feel like a loss of independence, and it feels like they're losing themselves. So they may go on a trip to get away from everything and then analyze their stress level on that trip and feel none because they're away from the closeness. And they often misinterpret this as a sign that their relationship is bad because they were feeling stressed in it. So when they get back from the trip, they end it. So can a relationship ever work with someone who has an avoidant attachment style? Well, the style's on a spectrum. Some avoidants just need more time than others to understand their emotions and communication. And if you give them that time, then they're incredible partners. Others who are more severely avoidant bounce from relationship to relationship their entire lives and push most people away who are close to them. These attachment wounds can be healed, but you can't do this for them. It's something that all of us need to choose and work through ourselves. If you feel like this describes your partner, the best thing you can do to encourage that change is to let them go and make it real. If they really feel the pain of their relationships ending, and avoidant people do still feel pain, that might be the thing that drives them to learn about attachment theory, go to therapy, read books, whatever they need to do, and change. Reason number 2 is differing values. You may have heard this one before, but how do you even know what is a set value and shouldn't be changed and what's just a difference in personality and can easily be worked through? A value is defined in the Oxford Dictionary as one's judgment of what is important in life. Things like religion, political views, if you want kids or not, what family dynamics you want to have, where you want to live in the future, are all examples of values that probably won't change. In fact, they're parts of ourselves that we probably shouldn't change. Often, if we do try to change these things about ourselves, we can develop a lot of resentment, which can boil and fester until you have nothing but conflict in your relationship. Things like communication styles or conflict styles or even expectations that you held from watching your parents' marriage are all things that can be adapted and worked through so that you guys can work more harmoniously. If you were so in love with someone who had fundamentally different values from you, imagine how deep your relationship can be with someone who you more naturally mesh with. Reason number 3, lack of mutual respect. How can we sometimes be cruelest to the ones we love most? For a relationship to flourish, there needs to be mutual respect, and one of the most common ways we damage that is through our words. During my previous relationships, I had a real problem with nitpicking and being critical of my partners. I had a habit of making a big deal out of things that didn't really matter and starting fights. After each of them left me, I felt doomed to repeat the same pattern, and honestly, the thought of starting a new relationship scared the heck out of me. So I started going to therapy and told the therapist that my only goal was to stop being critical of the ones that I loved. As we dove into our sessions, my therapist taught me this principle, which completely changed the way that I treated the ones that I loved. I've been with my wife Jocelyn for 2 years now, 1 dating and 1 married, and I can honestly and confidently say that I do not nitpick her like I did in the past relationships. This is the principle. Imagine two buckets. One is how you treat everyone else and one is how you treat yourself. Most people are a lot kinder to others than they are to themselves. I recently read that many people are more consistent giving medicines to their pets than themselves. We'd often say terrible things to ourselves that we'd never say to other people, and we'd often forgive other people when we would never forgive ourselves. And you can go through life this way, but the problem is that when somebody gets so close to you, like a girlfriend or a wife, when they're that big of a part of your life, they automatically jump from the other people bucket into your bucket. And you automatically start treating them like you treat yourself. So, if your self bucket is not a very fun place to be, your partner will have to start enduring the criticism and self-hate that you impose on yourself. So instead of focusing on becoming a kinder person to others, which you're probably already good at, the key is in learning to love yourself. Once you enjoy being you and you're your own best friend in the world, as soon as your partner jumps into your bucket, it's going to be an incredible place and they're going to like it there too. That idea was a huge revelation to me. Reason number 4, when it becomes dangerous to stay. There are certain times when it just isn't safe mentally or physically to stay in a relationship. This can include addictions, physical abuse, emotional abuse, isolation, infidelity, or repeated put-downs. If you're having trouble differentiating what a safe and unsafe relationship looks like, try this exercise. Close your eyes and think of someone that you're extremely protective over and that you love. This could be a brother, a sister, a cousin, a niece, a nephew, or a friend. Now imagine that your relationship is theirs. Go through everything that happened, don't sugarcoat the bad times, and don't downplay the good times. Now, if this person came to you for advice, what would you advise them to do? Would you tell them to stay or leave? Now, as a side note, if this is the reason why you left your relationship, remind yourself of this reason if you're tempted to return, and know that it is okay to protect yourself. Sometimes the deepest way you can love someone is leaving them and allowing them the motivation and chance to change. But maybe your situation's completely different. Maybe everything was going great and then your partner left out of nowhere. Reason 5 is the truth behind blindside breakups. I had a coaching call with a woman yesterday that was completely blindsided by her breakup. From the way her partner was acting and texting her that day, she was sure that he was going to tell her that he loved her. She'd said it a while back and it was finally time, she thought, for him to reciprocate. She was so excited when he brought her out to his car and then he told her that they were breaking up. How can people leave out of nowhere like this, and what's their reason? Well, there's a couple. A lot of times after people decide that they're going to break up with you, they need weeks or maybe even months to gather up the courage to do so. This pattern often looks like this. A couple has a pattern of fighting for months and then all of a sudden the fighting stops. You feel like the relationship is better than ever. You finally don't disagree anymore. And then as soon as you get super comfortable, your partner ends it. Often this ceasefire in disagreements is usually because the partner stops fighting for the relationship. They've decided that it's over, so they don't need to fight anymore. Other people are more 50-50 for a while. They may be thinking about breaking up with you, but then they have an incredible day with you and remember all the good times. For weeks or months, again, they teeter back and forth depending on if this day is good or this day is bad. Till finally something big happens that pushes them over the edge and they break up with you. In order for you to never get to this point of blindside breakups again, you can apply these 2 principles. We'll talk about the emotional bank account now and the relationship review a little later in the video in reason 6. The principle of an emotional bank account comes from the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is incredible, by the way, and I'll put the link so you can read it in the description. Imagine that the quality of your relationship is like a bank account. Each fun, playful, lighthearted, enjoyable, adventurous interaction is a deposit. And each argument, fight, put down, disagreement, or even difficult conversations that need to be had count as withdrawals. When the account becomes overdrafted, meaning that you're spending money that you don't have, people tend to feel underappreciated and unfulfilled in their relationships and they leave. According to popular relationship researchers John and Julie Gottman, most healthy relationships have a ratio of 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction. If your goal is to save the relationship and you're still in it, focus on deposits right now. You can have the difficult conversations after you have a balance in the account. If you've already been broken up with and you're planning on meeting and seeing if you guys can rekindle things, follow the same principle. Don't talk about the breakup at the beginning. Practice having fun together again so that you guys like being together. And once you have that foundation, you can talk about what went wrong and what needs to change. Reason number 6 is that one or both partners don't feel heard in the relationship. When I first started dating my wife Jocelyn, she would never tell me things that bothered her. It was great at the beginning, but after a couple of months, it felt a little weird. We never disagreed and I never annoyed her like at all, which just isn't possible. Finally, one day after 2 months of dating, she brought up something that bothered her about me, and she did so almost apologetically. I said that I would change, and she told me that she was surprised that I didn't get mad at her. You see, she was married before too, and they'd often have arguments when she would bring up stuff that bothered her, and it would get turned on her. So she learned to just not bring up things that bothered her and not rock the boat. It took her starting to practice by bringing up small things that bothered her and me giving her a positive response before she was able to share how she actually felt in the relationship. Now she tells me I'm dumb all the time, but our connection is deeper and more real and more vulnerable than it ever was when we weren't talking about how we actually felt. One way that you can develop this is the second principle I mentioned earlier, called a relationship review. It goes by a couple of names. I've also heard it called the State of the Union, but it basically goes like this. You sit down with your partner once a week and discuss 3 things. First, you talk about one thing that your partner did during the week that made you feel loved. Make sure that it's specific and you tell them why it meant so much to you. For example, I could say, Jocelyn, I felt special this week because you made me orange chicken. I know you don't like Chinese food, so that sacrifice really made me feel cared for. Second, ask your partner on a scale of 1 to 10, how loved did you feel in the relationship this week? If they answer anything below 10, which again, people who aren't used to sharing these things will probably say a 9 or an 8, ask them why. And listen, and it is very, very important that you do not get defensive here. Finally, ask what could I do or change to make it a 10 next week? And that's it. It doesn't have to take long, but you're building a habit and a culture in your relationship that bringing up things that bother you is normal. These things won't guarantee that a blindside breakup won't happen again in the future, but the main reason they do is because people don't feel safe sharing the things that bother them. If you do this, you're fixing things while they're small and they don't have the chance to boil and fester into something that can destroy their relationship. A lot of people never get the conversation that they needed with their ex to fully get closure. Now you know the most common reasons why people leave the ones that they love, and hopefully this can give you closure. If you were able to learn what happened in your relationship, let me know in the comments. And while you're down there, try to encourage someone else who's also commenting and going through what you're going through. You can do a lot of good that way. You're going to be okay. Many people do get a second chance in their relationships. I didn't though, and I'm incredibly happy. No matter what happens with you, if you use the tools in this video, your next relationship, whether it's with your ex or someone new, will be full of happiness and connection. If this video helped you, please consider clicking the subscribe button. It really helps me out. And check out this next video about the 3 worst pieces of popular breakup advice that you need to avoid if you want your best chance of saving your relationship.